Hey everyone. So, with storytelling, I had a storytelling coach or a story coach. And some of the basics that she taught me was you always tell the beginning, middle, and end. So, one time during my coaching session, she said to me, "Okay, Carla, go ahead." I gave this fabulous story that I thought, and I'm giving so much emotion to it, and I'm talking. And I just knew in my mind she was going to say, "Oh, Carla, that was a great story." And I'm waiting. She said, "You gave the beginning of the story and then the middle of the story, but there's something that I'm missing." I thought, this thing was perfect. What is she talking about? And I said, "Oh my gosh, I forgot the end." She said, "You forgot the end of the story." She said, "Give me the end of the story." I gave her the end of the story. She said, "Now let's put it all together." I put it all together. She said, "Now that was a great story." So that's something you want to always remember. When you give a story, the basics, you give the beginning, middle, and end. And speaking of stories, we've got a storyteller today for our guests. So welcome to Lead Like You Mean It, people, is where we actually share bold conversations about leadership. I'm your host, Carla Coates, and today our guest is Michael Chaleff. Wanted to make sure I said your name correctly, Michael. He's a storyteller, an executive coach, a magician, and a former U.S. Naval officer. And for me, 22 years as a civilian in the Navy. Go Navy, beat Army. Anyway, he also built a distinguished career as a federal prosecutor and a trial attorney with the Department of Justice before founding Practical Influence in 2003. And for over 4 decades, Michael has captivated audiences as a musician, mentalist, and blending performance with psychology and human connection. So I say to you today, Michael, welcome to Lead Like You Mean It, people.
Thank you, Carla. What a great introduction. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to be here. By the way, I loved your story about storytelling, and I just wish more people sort of sat down and had coaching around it. I think it's such an amazing, powerful tool. And obviously, you're embracing that and getting better and better at it. Hopefully, other people will take some of those lessons that we're going to talk about today and go out and change the world through their stories.
Yeah, I think storytelling is important because it kind of gets to the heart of the matter. Just as far as, well, from a leadership perspective, and also when you're connecting someone. So, talk to me about how leadership is important with storytelling from your perspective.
Well, I mean, let me just take one step back with respect to
Hmm.
stories itself, right? There's a
Sure.
science around this. I don't know how long we've been, the Gutenberg Bible started, I don't know, 1300s or something. But the
Yeah.
truth is, before we ever could write, we had a narrative. We talked, we shared, like part of our biology needed to understand stories so that you knew where to hunt and where to travel. And so it became really important for us to understand story. It's part of our DNA. When people tell great stories, you find yourself getting emotionally reactive. Those are hormones in your body, like cortisol and
Hmm.
oxytocin. All of those things actually physically make you memory better, make you have a better connection. All of those things are so powerful. So when you're telling the story, you're engaging that. And it just makes absolute sense that you would use that same energy in work and life in anywhere to use it so people can react. So you can have that power and that persuasion that you're seeking.
Hmm.
Anyway, I forgot the question. I was so excited to
No,
tell
no,
you
no,
about
no.
it.
You. So it was in regards to connecting storytelling and leadership. So the part about the emotions and then the cortisol, I never thought about it because I remember thinking even with giving my story or running my story through my story coach. I remember how I felt. And I thought I was doing a great job. My energy was up and I had a smile on my face. I just never connected that to storytelling. That's interesting. Mm,
Let me go one step further. So when people come to me for all kinds of communication advice.
sure.
So whether they're trying to interview for a job or they're trying to give a speech or they're doing a presentation, I always say start with a story because one, you remember the story, like you're talking about, you were caught up in it. And
Yeah.
and regardless of the thing is, even if you don't tell a good story, the fact that you're in a space where you're sharing something and having a sense memory, people can feel the
Mhm.
energy. You're a different person when you tell that story. You're more magnetic. You have more chemistry. People are more drawn to you. So even if you tell a bad story, it's still a magic because you show up. Like your natural spark shows up in that story when you're doing it. So it can be really powerful. The trick for me is right now we've got one. When I tell my story, I show up differently, and that's that I show up with more power, more passion, more interest in my audience. Then we go to what your coach was telling you. Hey, there's a 3-act structure. She said beginning, middle, and end. I think of it in terms of acts, right? Something happens in the beginning, something happens in the middle, and then there's closure at the end.
Yes.
And then for me, the next level of talking about stories, how do I have my outcome drive what I include in the story, right? So people, when I experience people telling stories, they give me too much information, and that information they give me distracts me from the message. So
Yes.
to me, the advanced thing is, okay, I have a great story. What do I want to do with it? How do I want to inspire people? What do I want them to get from the story? And then going back and saying, okay, what do I add, subtract, and include to make sure people walk out with that nugget, that clear message of what I want them to walk out with?
That's fascinating. Okay. So, Michael, I normally say this, so I have questions prepared. Let's see if we'll get through maybe 2. Okay, let me ask you my first question. Okay, you spent decades as both a magician and a leadership coach. And magic is about creating wonder, but it's also about understanding human perceptions, simply what we talked about. What can leaders learn from the way a magician sees the world and anticipates human behavior?
All right, let me give you a quick discussion about magic itself. So
Okay.
40 years, I have the attention span of a 3-year-old. So I have studied everything. And when I mean everything, I mean, when I was 14, I was learning how to do cigarette magic, even though I wasn't smoking and never smoked. So cards, coins, ropes, walking on broken glass, fire eating, fire breathing. I hired a guy from Germany once to teach me something called Hellstromism, hypnosis. So different magic requires different levels of thinking and different approaches. Stage magic is very different than what I would do if you and I were in the same room together. The thing that was most impactful to me, and I loved doing the most, was restaurant magic. Because in a restaurant, there is no cover, right? You are with a room full of people that don't know you, may not want to know you, have been drinking too much, and your goal is to get them to give you $20. So, and you're surrounded by people that are, drinks knocked. You've got to be a dynamic. So we're going to do a little bit here. Can you imagine the number of years of law school I had to endure? So, remember that card. Okay. You got it?
Yeah.
We'll give the cards a shuffle if I can. Look at that. I can't even shuffle the deck. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to take one step back here. Right there. Your card was the 7 of clubs. Yes? Right there.
That's a new card?
That's the card you picked, right?
No, I saw something else.
What card did you pick?
The first one was red.
Yeah, it was probably that card.
Oh. I'm watching your hands. I want to see it.
Yes. So so half the time I couldn't find the 10. So here's the message to go back to the question you're asking me. I am a control freak. I have been my entire life. The trick that I needed to learn for myself was control is an illusion. You got to take a step. It doesn't mean you're not trying to be great. You got to take a breath. You got to be present. You got to be with the people that you're with. You got to adapt and learn from what happens. And I wish I could tell you that when I started doing magic young, that I learned that lesson, but I have to keep relearning it. When I became a naval officer, right, I started with this, like, it's got to be perfect and this trying to control everything. And it alienated me from the people that I worked with. And it wasn't until I relaxed, accepted, and started talking to them that I really started to become a great leader. Then we went to become a coach, right? And in coaching, you want to be great. Like people, this is a big thing. And you try to control stuff. And the more you try to control, the less effective you are, because it's not your story, it's their story.
Yes.
And so to me, the big lesson I've learned is relax. You can't control everything. Show up, be present, share your ideas with people, and just have a growth mindset.
Mm. And you know what, when you say being present, I don't know if you noticed, but I was like this. Because it's like I wanted to control in my mind. I need to be able to see what he's doing
Yeah.
with his hands. I want to be able to engage. I want to figure it out. It's about that control thing.
Yeah.
But with you doing the magic, it did bring me in, because I leaned forward and I'm like, really, I'm trying to look over into your office to figure out, what you're totally doing. But it is that human connection, and it's very important. So I can see that was the
Yeah.
first time I've really, I guess, really mentally thought about the connection between magic and leadership. You have to be present.
1,000%. And I think there are so many different, in my mind, right? I'm going to go one more step. For me,
Sure.
so I've been a magician, right? I've been a lawyer. I've been different kinds of, I teach people storytelling. People come to me for conflict resolution. To me, all of those things come back to the lessons and the mistakes I made when I first started doing magic. When I first started doing magic, it was about me trying to be interesting and have control over my surroundings. And it was about me, right? And so as I got better and better, what I realized is, right, I had to really be clear on what I wanted. What am I trying to do with this? But then I had to be 1,000% focused on understanding my audience and what they wanted. And so to me, that's life. To me, that's life. So if you come to me and said, Michael, I have to worry about conflict, I'd say, great, let's figure out what's going on with you. What are you trying to do? And then we got to figure out how to make it work in their emotional state of the other person. You got to be curious about that. And that's, if I'm doing negotiation training, that's it. If I'm talking about stories, what's your goal of the story? What do you want your audience to feel emotionally? And all of that, to me, is the same lesson over and over again. But it started with being a bad magician and then asking myself, how can I be better? What am I really trying to do? It's like, don't teach me another card trick. Teach me how to get someone to care about a card trick.
Yeah. And, that was the biggest shift in my career, when I learned how to take the focus off of Carla.
Yeah.
And actually place it onto the staff, the organization. It was a shift like that.
Yeah.
Because I was so focused on me. I'm the boss. And that was terrible. So I see the connection there.
You and I had that same lesson when I was a young officer, right? It wasn't until I became 1,000% focused on who they were as people and their family and what they were trying to achieve in life. Until they knew I cared about them, they would do the work, but I didn't have their passion. I didn't have their commitment. And the sad thing for me was I don't think I really figured that out till I was in the Navy for 4 years, 3 months, and 18 days. And it wasn't until that end part that I realized, oh, this is what it's about. This is how you can. And that's, I think, shaped me, not in the Navy, but the way I think about the world.
So interesting. Okay, my question number 2. All right. You've worked as a naval officer. I still have to stick in there one more time. Go Navy, beat Army.
Yes.
A naval officer, a federal prosecutor, and an entertainer. And these roles are worlds apart, yet they all require high-stakes communication. So what core storytelling or persuasion principles have you found to be universal across all of them?
Well, we've already touched on this, right? Stories are power, and telling a story gets you better, right? Gets you more, but being really clear in why you're telling a story and editing the story gets you more. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of things that I've done or helped people with, or what I've seen, and then we can kind of deconstruct and learn from that.
Sure.
So a couple of years ago, I was asked to do storytelling for funeral directors. Carla, I killed.
What?
People were dying to get in that room.
Okay.
That was bad. So I've never said that.
Drink some tea.
So when I go and speak to groups, I want to learn everything that I can about that group, and I want to hear their stories. And so I spoke to somebody that they make coaches. Those are the hearses. Now I've never gotten permission from this company, so I'm not going to use their name, but I'll tell you what this person told me. We're sitting there, I'm asking questions. He said, we're one of the top coach makers in America. Our facility is on the East Coast. We had sent an expensive coach to someone on the West Coast. And after they had the product, the hearse, for about a month or two, they called and they said, every time it rains, there's a small drip of water that comes into the inside of the cabin, comes through one of those, rivets where they attach things on the side. They told the CEO of the company, so actually it was a family business, he jumps on a plane, flies out, rents a car, drives 3 hours, goes to the facility, does what for all intents and purposes is a $200 fix, says to the people, thank you so much for being a customer, and I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. Is there anything else we can do? When he talked to them a little bit. Gets in the car, goes back to the airport, flies back home. Okay. Do I need to tell you anything more about that company's commitment to customer service?
Mm-mm.
If you were going to in the market for a hearse, would you say, you know what, that's a company I'd like to work with, or at least consider, right?
Yeah.
So let's take one more step back. If you were talking to your employees, is that a company that you'd want to work for that had that level of commitment?
Absolutely.
If you were trying to communicate to the people that work for you what your expectation was about the quality of the products that you were going to put out, could you convey that in a more precise, clear way?
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, this is a conversation I had 3 years ago. And every time I talk about storytelling, I tell this story. This now, wouldn't say it's gone viral, but the power of this story has transcended time. And so it's not long, it's short, but it communicates values in a really powerful way. So to me, that's kind of what you're trying to do. Now, I just told you a story about a story to explain to you the power of stories. That was the reason I shared that story with you. So that's the first story, and just getting people to understand that power. I had another client that was worked for a really big company. I don't want to say the name. And they were putting forth an initiative. And the initiative was that they wanted to consolidate, and they wanted to change the way communications were done within the company. And they asked me to come in and help them rewrite and work on the presentation. And I listened to the presentation, your question about data and graphs and, inefficiencies and problems and redundancies. And I was like, I guess I get it. And I guess you've told me that I can save thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. I said, why don't you overlay this with a simple story that's going to expand and connect? And so I told them the story. I don't know if do you know the Baltimore fire in 1904?
No. Mm-mm.
So they come into the presentation and said, before we begin, I want to tell you about 1904. In Baltimore, someone threw a cigarette out, and there was the largest fire to date sprang up in Baltimore, and every fire engine in the community came, and it continued to grow. And we were at a time when communications worked. So they sent out requests, New York, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C. All of these firefighters converged on Baltimore in order to help save this community from the fires. And when the fire people got there, all they could do was sit on the hill and watch it burn, because no one had a fitting that would connect with the Baltimore water system.
Wow.
So what happened after that? They transformed the way that they did firefighting. They standardized the way that they were operating. They created fittings that could go together. And we as a company need to do the exact same thing.
Okay.
And everyone, I get it. And it became the Baltimore fire principle. And all of a sudden, everyone had it. Everyone was on the same page, and everyone was motivated. And they didn't need to go to the facts and figures and all of those things, thinking that people make decisions based on reason. They don't. They told a powerful story that got them connected, that had them understand what was at risk, and that flew through. I earned my pay that day.
Yeah. But you know what? Because as you were telling the story, I was thinking about that in a corporate setting. where I'm from the financial piece
Yeah.
from the Department of the Navy, and I just thought about how that would connect a variety of people because they would all get it. I mean,
Yeah.
you're coming from different areas. Let's just use your particular area. If we had someone from the, we used to call them the legal folks. It was a bunch of
Is
lawyers.
that really what you called them? You probably called them something more.
Yeah, we
Anyway.
call them the legal folks. So we had those folks, and then we also had R&D. We had the financial. So we had a lot of people sitting around a conference table.
Right.
But now you're talking about connection and
Yeah.
how it all relates. And telling a story, people would understand. It's a basic story, but at the same time, it explains what you're trying to connect. So I would have appreciated hearing that instead of wasting my time,
Yeah.
and you're just giving me a lot of facts that I don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. You're talking from a legal
Yeah.
perspective. I have no idea.
And then let me give you a third example, one that's near and dear to my heart. A lot of times people come to me that want to advance themselves, right? And so I'm really big on people telling stories that promote themselves. I had a client, and brilliant woman, wanted to get a new job at a big company. I mean, this was a stretch goal. So we were talking, and I just started asking her questions, sort of what I call story mining. So tell me about the last project that you went on. And she told me this amazing story about the project. And then I said, okay, doing what I've said before, be strategic. Why would you tell this story? What would you want the person on the other end hearing this story to react to? Well, I want them to know that I'm a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Great. I want them to know that they can trust me to do big projects. Great. Then we went back and said, okay, how would you change that story? And it was really hard, but she had to get rid of the we's and had to start saying I. Yeah. And then it was hard for her, right? Because she couldn't be congruent. So I said, what of this project can you own and feel comfortable saying? And so we changed her narrative to talking about, it was my team. It was my ideas. I was so excited. I allowed other people to excel, but I was the one that got it across the finish line, right? She now got her dream job. She's ecstatic and, a dear, dear friend. But it was going back to this idea. I've got to be strategic.
Yeah.
I've got to ask myself, what am I trying to do with the story? And then craft the story to make sure at the end, that's what I got. And I'm going to give you one trick that I don't give this away for free, but I adore you, Carla. Most stories are at 3-act structure. So beginning, middle, and end. Uh-huh. When I'm in a business context, I add act 4. Because even if I tell a story, there's a possibility that someone might miss my message. So at the end, I make sure they don't miss it. And I say, this is what it means to me. And I add the takeaway so that there's no doubt. So for that person, and this is what, that was a really big project. This is what it meant to me, that when there's a difficult job, I can get it done creatively, and I can work with even the most talented people and get it across the finish line. Mm-hmm. And now you get to give that little nugget to that person, and they're going to carry it out of the room and go, oh, okay, yeah, that's what I got. So the act 4 to me is the way that you what I call lock in the learning, which a speaker taught me. I can't remember the name of the speaker, but it was worth it.
Yeah, making it it becomes very personal. It becomes personal without it being sappy.
Here's what I'm going to tell you, Carla. You got that when you write a story for clarity. Mm-hmm. When you tell a story, you're doing it for connection. Mm-hmm. And there's 3 parts. There's you, there's the story, and there's the audience. And it's a dynamic structure that's constantly changing, right? Mm-hmm. And your audience changes. So that means you and the story need to adapt.
Gotcha.
And what I've learned is the curse of knowledge. The picture in my head sometimes doesn't land. So the stories to me that are important, I ask people questions about. How did that land for you? What was important? It could be sappy, right? Sometimes. That's why I normally don't audition stories for the first time in front of a new audience as if it's important. I'll do it at a party. I'll do it for the cab driver. I'll do it for, hey, what'd you like? What'd you not like? And then it grows and adapts. To me, every story I tell is an investment in communicating my values or messaging to people, and it lives, and I'm waiting for it to come down. and then be shaped. How does it need to change for this triangle at that moment?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Because I was thinking about a corporate setting where you have, again, different thoughts, different areas of responsibilities. And when you give that story, I'm thinking, okay, you can't be sappy, but you can be sappy with a friend, with a group of people. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, going to just sitting at a table with a lot of friends. You're saying the storytelling changes based on your audience.
We don't have the time to do it here. When I teach a corporate storytelling workshop, I tell a story about when I thought I had throat cancer.
Mm.
And I tell that story, and then I take that story and I change the facts 3 different ways to have 3 different outcomes.
Okay.
So just because you have a story doesn't mean it has to stay the same story. The things that you emphasize and change can lead to completely different outcomes. And so that's, as we're talking about being strategic, right? It's not only my audience changes, but what's my goal for this story? And then as you become more proficient with asking the questions that we're talking about, how do I make this impactful? You can start adapting those stories to meet very different objectives.
Mm-hmm. So out of all the roles that you've had, and I think I know the answer to all of these, out of all the roles, which one do you enjoy the most?
I'm all right. So I'm freezing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going to overshare. Carla, when I turned 50, I decided to change everything. Like I decided I wanted to be completely different for whatever time I had left. And I stopped dating. I stopped doing all kinds of things in my life and just completely said, I want to start doing things differently. I changed my relationship with magic and comedy and all these things. And frankly, 2 years ago, I've never been married, never thought I'd be married. 2 years ago, I got married. So you want to know the most important thing to me? The most important thing to me is being happy in my relationship. And that I'm so blessed to have 2 stepkids that I never thought I'd have. So of all the things I do, there's nothing that is more important to me or more focused on than that.
That's beautiful.
Just to take, so I that was what, when you asked me that question, like, yeah.
I can hear it in your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And congratulations.
Thank you.
That's congratulations. I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of times my question was focused on the roles, but your role is being a husband and being a dad. So that's fantastic. A lot of times it would be, again, going with my question, simply be, well, you know what? Storytelling. That's what I thought you were going to say. But the heart of Michael is being a husband and being a dad.
But, and you say that, we were talking about constantly having to give up control.
Yeah.
Right. I have stepkids that I adore. I can't tell them what to do. Right. And so for me, the best thing that I can do is share stories that are meaningful to me, right, in the hopes that it'll land. And maybe it won't land today. Maybe it'll land a week. Maybe it'll land a month. Maybe it'll land a year from now. And one of the blessings of coaching is this idea of, you have these conversations with people and you have long relationships. And I remember talking to people and having them walk out and kind of be nonplussed at the coaching session, and then come back like a year later. Oh my gosh, that time, that thing that the question you asked, oh, it's transformed my life. And so, so I've become much more accepting of the fact through storytelling and sharing ideas that who knows what'll manifest out of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I had a question about, not so much from a leadership perspective. Let's get into personal leadership. Let's say I am, and again, not from a corporate point of view, but let's say someone says to me, and I had this happen just last week. Hey, Carla, can we meet at Starbucks? I'm not here to sell you anything. I just want to have a connection, whether it's personal, may lead to business, but let's just have a connection. How would a story fall into that situation? A genuine story.
Yeah. People don't like to be told what to do, and they don't like to be sold.
Mm.
So how do I tell someone what to do, or how do I sell it? And I don't mean, to me, when I'm saying sell, create an opportunity where they might get something that's in their best interest, right? And
Sure.
so every time I tell a story to somebody else, the protagonist of that story, the person that's hearing that story, will see themselves in that role.
Mm-hmm.
So when people come to me and they say, okay, Michael, I did it. I just did it now. Let's say someone came to me and said, hey, Michael, I am stuck where I am. I want to get this great job. How can I get this job? How can I hire you? Or how can I work with you, or something along those lines? I don't want to go into sales, right?
Yeah.
But what I can do is I can talk about that story that I told. Oh, let me tell you about Angie. Angie came to me and said the exact same thing. She was struggling. She had self-doubt about whether she was prepared for this role. And we started talking about her stories. And as she talked about her story, she revealed herself. And through that revealing, I could tell her what I was feeling. And she acknowledged those were areas of weakness. And through that process, she could figure out how to move into her strength.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's got this great job.
Yeah.
So I'm sharing a true story about something I'm proud of, that was something that happened to a client of mine. I'm not selling, but in that process, that person's envisioning themselves as, well, maybe I could be Angie.
Yeah.
Right? And then they are allowed to see a future that they may not have been able to even see for themselves through the eyes of this person I'm talking about. And to me, I think that's, now it can, people that, this is the thing that always scares me. I'm really clear on my intentions when I'm influencing, that it's a shared goal to make this person great. That's kind of my commitment. But you got to remember, there are other people out there that don't have that same level of commitment to integrity, that are using this to kind of push people's buttons.
Absolutely.
And I have to acknowledge, right, the tools are the same of influence. It's the intention of the person behind those tools that drives.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I get it. And I was also thinking about when I did have that instance of meeting someone. We met at a Starbucks. It was very interesting because it's your first encounter with the person. But I noticed how the person leaned in and was very open to share her area, her personal story, because I shared mine, and I was very open and vulnerable at the same time. And I just thought, giving a story, just sharing your heart, but a true story with someone that you just met is powerful, because they get to know you, and then they feel far more comfortable to share. Because I could see after I shared my story, she went, oh, now Carla, and she leaned in, she said, now let me tell you this. And she shared this huge situation that went on with her at work. So I think the power of story is incredible, whether it's just on a personal level with your personal leadership, or if you're in a corporate setting, what have you. You were thinking about something.
All right, so Carla, I love what you just shared. Can I make a book recommendation for you and everyone that's here?
Yeah.
Okay. So the book is called Influence: The Psychology of Persuasion. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
So it's by a man by the name of Professor Cialdini, and he spent his entire life, or not a significant portion of his life, doing research on people that get people to say yes when they otherwise would say no. So he spent time studying people that sold cars. He spent time people that were really successful at selling timeshares. He spent time in restaurants where he was studying the people that were making more money than less money in tips. And he consolidated into 7 triggers. 7, got it. I don't get the figures right. 7 things that people automatically, you can push buttons and have them say yes when they otherwise would say no. It gives you an advantage. The one that's most obvious is giving gifts. If you give someone a gift, they feel obligated to give it
Uh-huh.
back. That's a trigger in the same sort of ideas. And what he talks about is it's easier to say yes to someone that you like, right, than somebody that you don't like. And so your stories enhance connection. But he would also say when you tell stories about being vulnerable, it's called a statement against interest. People's willingness to even increase their trust factor goes up substantially.
That's incredible. What's the name of that book one more time?
Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Cialdini.
That's powerful. Okay.
I'm going to give you one other. I'm going to give you the dark side, because in the French Revolution there was somebody named Cardinal Richelieu who mastered this technique. And what he would do is he would tell these really intimate stories that had statements against interests that weren't true in order to elicit trust and reciprocal stories from other people that he would use against him. Cardinal Richelieu.
Goodness. What a guy. Okay.
Yes.
All right, Michael. So this is my last question.
Oh, how sad.
I know. I try to keep time. Connie, our producer, 40 minutes. We used to have 30 minutes. We have 40 minutes now. So, okay. Let's see if I can get it right. Okay. So, what small change can a leader make tomorrow that could have immediate impact on how they connect and inspire?
We're going to try an experiment here, Carla. Are you ready?
Yes.
What job did you have before this job that you love and were passionate about?
Before, I would say, let's go with my pizza, when I used to make pizzas.
When you made pizza, what were your duties and responsibilities?
I was responsible for making the crust. It was real crust. Responsible for putting the tomato sauce on top of the crust, uncooked, and shredding the cheese and placing the mozzarella cheese on the pizza.
Right. Okay. What kind of work do you do now?
I'm a business owner.
Okay.
I'm a leadership coach.
What is the thing that you love the most about doing this work?
It's a dream of mine. I'm living my dream.
Tell me more about the dream.
The dream is about 5 or 6 years ago, I had a dream of owning my own business, but I had to realize that it's been a 20-year-old dream. And so the dream is I get flexibility, I get to serve people, and it's fun.
All right. So when we go back and look at this video, we're going to see the difference between those two questions. Now, you're a very emotional person, and we're in a conversation where we're doing this. But what I do when I do this with other people, you can see the transformation. And for you, it was slight. For other people, it's usually this. So when I ask you your duties and responsibilities, you're telling me I did this. You're in your head. It's an intellectual conversation. When I connect you with that thing that you're passionate about, your body came back, your head came back, your arms and gestures got wide, your voice got louder. I could feel your energy. So you're asking me, what can you do in order to transform yourself? You can do it tomorrow. It's find the thing in your job, find the thing in what you do that gives you that feeling, because you'll automatically show up differently. When I work with people and they say, I want to transform the way people meet me or see me, I'll ask them, just introduce themselves, and I'll have them talk for 5-10 minutes. And I go, let's look at the 5-10 minutes. And when you look at the 5-10 minutes, I go, look, that's when I loved you. That's when you showed up. Like, get to those pieces sooner. Focus on those pieces more often, and you'll show up differently and more powerfully.
Oh, cool. That's fantastic. So I did talk about what I enjoyed. I did talk about the dream. And you're right, my hands are going. They're still going. That's powerful. Well, thank you, Michael. Go ahead.
I was just going to add one more thing. Right.
Sure.
For people at work, even if you're not talking about that, you can still have the intention that what I'm doing now is making the world a better place. So for you, right, once you learn how to access that energy,
Mhm.
Even when you're talking about mundane parts of your life, mundane parts of the job, having that idea and connecting it back to what you're passionate about and what will also carry you through.
Wow. Well, Michael, it's been enjoyable. I thank you as a guest. Thank you very much. I appreciate this time together. I enjoy the magic trip. I'm telling you, I was looking over like I can really look into your square here. I tried to figure it out, but I thank you for your time. Go on, go. Let's see, say
Navy.
go Army.
Oh,
Oh my gosh! Oh, let's edit that out. Go Navy, beat Army. But
yes.
thank you for your time. And I just look forward to everything that you have in the future. And for those of you, thank you for tuning in. We look forward to all of you coming back on September the 11th. We will not have this Lead Like You Mean It people on our normal Wednesday, second Wednesday of the month. We will have it on September the 11th, and I will share my story of me at the Pentagon on 9/11. It's a true story. So I thank you for this time. And for those who are available, I am giving away my book, not Lead Like You Mean the People. My book, Let's Get Down to Business, to the first 5 people. Please DM me, whether it's on LinkedIn, let's go with Facebook or Instagram. Again, first 5 people, DM me for my book. I will send you a personal copy and I will even sign it for you. Michael, thank you once again. I appreciate your time very much.
Thank you very much. It was a joy.
Oh, I appreciate it. All right, folks. Until next time, we're out.